Hey guys, I know it's been a while, and I know I said that at the start of my previous video as well, but there's been a couple of things I've been thinking about that I just wanted to talk about. So there's no particular concept that I'm going to be discussing in today's video. It's more just some random thoughts that I've been having over the past couple of months since winter break and even before that, I guess. I was thinking about where I was, who I was and where I was as a person when I first started this channel. And I was very much motivated by the fact that I was starting something new, something that I believed was worthwhile, and still do. I still do believe this is a worthwhile way to spend my time, because I've always wanted to be looked up to, I wanted people to look up to me and be like, wow, he's trying to make a difference, he's trying to do something worthwhile with his time, he's trying to help other people, which is something that I've always wanted to do. I've always been a massive advocate for helping people. But the more that I think about it, the more that I realize that helping people and where I was when I started this channel was something that was deeply rooted in emotion, I guess. I was motivated, but that was more by the fact that it's something new, it's something that I wanted to do. But when it comes to being consistent, emotion is the least of your concerns when it comes to being consistent. It's the biggest issue, I guess, when it comes to trying to be consistent, because if you rely on your emotional state to be motivated and to do things, if you rely on motivation to act, you might have to wait a really long time. There might be stints where you are really motivated and you really want to get things done, and there might be stints, and these stints could last really long times, months, maybe even a couple years on end, where you're just completely unmotivated. You don't want to do anything, you don't feel like acting, you don't feel like doing the things that you should be doing. And for whatever reason that might be, the fact of the matter is that motivation is reliant on your emotional state. And if you're in a state of mind where you don't like yourself, or you don't like the things that you're doing, or just something about you just annoys you, you have low self-esteem, you constantly doubt yourself when it comes to doing or acting, it makes it extremely hard to want to achieve the things that you set yourself to do. For the longest time, I've been overweight, and I've told myself, I really want to lose weight. I really want to be in a position where I'm happy with what I look like, and I'm happy with being in the normal weight category, and being healthy. And the more that I think about wanting to be healthy, and the more emphasis I put on it, the more I realize that it's so far away from me that I feel kind of helpless, and I feel what's the point? Is it even worth it for me to try today? How am I going to be consistent for a year or two on end? And I know that there's a lot of things that involve weight loss. There's a lot of things that revolve around losing weight, and it's not like you need to be consistently in a caloric deficit. Sure, you can have cheat days, or you can have periods of maintenance, but I don't know, on the whole, I feel like the way I approach things is inherently based on emotion. And I'm not going to say emotion's a bad thing, because it's not. Emotion is what makes us human. It's what makes us, it is what makes us act in certain ways or in certain aspects. But when it comes to being rational, and when it comes to doing the logically right thing, which for me, in my case, is being consistent and whatever it is I choose to do, whether it's uploading videos, losing weight, or any other goal I set myself, emotion isn't the right way to approach it. Because I've said, consistency, discipline, those are things that are distinctly disjoint from emotion. If you involve emotion in trying to be consistent or if you involve emotion in trying to be disciplined, it's not gonna work out well. You're gonna wake up one day and be like, I don't feel like doing this. And then you're gonna be like, okay, I'm not gonna do it. And I just don't know, how to get to that state of mind where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like doing this, but I'm gonna do it anyway just because, it's the right thing to do. And yeah, that's just one of the things that I feel like hasn't changed. I've been an emotional person back then, and I still am kind of reliant on how I feel to act today. One of the things that I do think has changed since I started the channel, though, is like, I wouldn't say my beliefs, maybe to an extent, but I guess how I look at things. Because when I first started like self-improvement as a channel and as like a content stream, I guess, I was looking at creators like I made a video on him as well. I made a video on Hamza as like, one of the people that I looked up to in terms of self-improvement. And I know that recently there's been like this whole thing on Andrew Tate, like, young men look up to Andrew Tate to act, or I guess do things, or as a source of motivation. But that again is also, I think, inherently based on how you feel. I think the reason why Andrew Tate appealed to so many young men is because, again, it was that surge of emotion that you needed to kind of act. But a couple months later, when that emotion, when that, I guess that presence isn't there anymore, you will probably see like a whole bunch of people like sort of starting going to the gym or starting being consistent with their goals. And then as soon as Andrew Tate stops being as prevalent as he once was, they're not going to go anymore. They're going to be like, I don't feel like it. And again, that's based on emotion. But one creator that I feel like I've been recently looking up to, I think I've never looked up to Andrew Tate. I've never been like, oh wow, he's so like macho, he has a Bugatti, therefore I'm gonna be more like him. That's never been something that I've been interested in. He was way too, different. I just don't like that guy. For a variety of reasons. I don't have to explain myself. But Hamza was definitely someone I looked up to. I looked up to him as like, he's achieved everything that I want, and therefore I'm guessing that if I look up to him, I will be on that path, surely, like slowly but surely. But then again, that was external. Like that drive, that motivation came from him being there and him being like, hey, get your shit together and do whatever it is you want to do. And I want that drive to come from within. And one of the creators that I feel like is helping me right now is Dr. K. Dr. K is a psychologist, a psychotherapist who does like coaching for young adults, young men, women. He's very much like inclusive, much more inclusive than Andrew Tate or Hamza, who kind of focused on like young men. Dr. K kind of focuses on anyone that needs help, which is what I want to do. I want to focus on anyone that is struggling with the same things that I am, the same thing that I was. And his advice and his like rationale for giving the advice is very much rooted in science and factual, I guess, advice. Like, he looks at the science, he looks at the papers that, the research that has like been released over the past couple of years. He talks about it, and he gives you like science-based steps on what to do. I feel like one person that I can compare Dr. K to is, for people that know about I guess bodybuilding and whatnot, Jeff Nippard is someone that also gives a lot of like science-based advice to either if it's based on nutrition or if it's weightlifting or any kind of bodybuilding or hypertrophy training or whatever you want to call it. I feel like Dr. K is like the Jeff Nippard of the mental health and slightly like self-improvement world, And one thing that Hamza said that I still agree with to this day is, because we live in a world where we kind of revolve more around the people whose content we consume, because there might be days where you consume more content than you speak to people. You might spend like an hour or two with your friends, and then maybe half an hour with your family. But you might spend like 4 hours to 5 hours watching TikTok or on YouTube or maybe even Netflix, I don't know. But one thing that Hamza said is that you are the average of the 5 people whose content you consume the most. And this might be a bit of a controversial take, but I feel like Hamza, Andrew Tate, and anyone else in that like manosphere, like sort of self-improvement, but also like inherently male-focused and masculinity-focused space, even though they advise you to like act on your discipline, they appeal more to the emotional side of like men. Like I guess like I don't know if you can call it like masculine urge or whatever, but when they speak to you, they speak to the emotional side of men, the side that's always yearned to be like the best version of themselves. I know that when I first started watching Hamza, there was the part of me that yearned to be more, to be physically fit, to be mentally healthy, and just to be like successful in whatever it is I chose. And if you look at it, right, like most people believe that you only have one life to live. And obviously if you're young, you kind of want to make sure that you live your life to the fullest. So obviously when someone talks to you about wanting to be the best version of yourself, that is going to appeal to your emotional side. There's no way that you can look at Hamza or Andrew Tate or any one of those masculine influencers and be like, yes, he is being completely rational, I will do whatever he says, and I will not involve that longing for, or that strive for like being better. That's not something that's ingrained in your like rationale. It's more something that anybody with emotions would want. Because if you like, I've always made this argument that the thing that separates us humans from like machinery or like robots is our emotion. If you look at a robot, right, just completely hypothetical, a robot wouldn't base its next move on an influencer telling them to do what's right. It would just do the right thing based on what it believes, or not what it believes, but just like a calculated next step, you know? Whereas when you look at Hamza and you say, oh yeah, he's making sense, I need to do the work now, that's an emotional decision that you make. And yeah, that's kind of where I was, and to an extent it's still where I am right now. Like I make the decisions that I make based on what I believe to be emotionally correct, not what I believe to be like the rational next step. I need emotion to help influence me to make my next decision, and when that emotion isn't there, I just don't make that next step, and I need to stop doing that. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been thinking about recently. And yeah, I hope I hope you guys can relate to what I'm saying, and I hope you guys understand that, you know, if you are feeling similarly, you're not alone. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna try and be more consistent, and I'm gonna try not to be emotional about it. Yeah, have a good one, guys. See ya.